Well, it's Tuesday, and you all know what that means. That means once again we have, of course, NXT. This one features, of course, as you know, we have brand new tag team champions, Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin. However, the obvious question we do ask ourselves, who will be the next challengers? Well, we're gonna find out. Lyra Valkyria, who is our current NXT Women's Champion, will defend her title against Shotzi, and of course, we're gonna see various other matches as well. But first things first, we're going to be reviewing two Japanese promotions. The first one is going to be from Oz Academy with All I Want that took place on the 11th of February in Shinjuku Face. This one features the main event for the number one contendership for the Oz Academy Openweight title that is currently being held by marvelous talent Miyu Momono. And as you know, Mayumi Ozaki will stop at nothing to get that title back, as you know she has their belt as well. And then we move on, of course, with Pro Wrestling Noah with the first ever Limit Break 1 starting over that took place on the 15th of February, featuring many talents, but also we have some wrestlers from outside of Noah making their appearance as well. Then we cap it up with some news updates to keep you guys updated on the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are throwing out, who's booked, what matches are set. We also got more developments on WrestleCon with a very surprising legend been announced to be participating in that particular show in Philly, and then of course some developments that we need to talk about in the world of pro wrestling as well. So let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only from the United States, but also from Japan, Mexico, the UK, Europe, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real timing news updates, the United Saka Watch, and other cool stuff as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool content as well on this channel. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, as you all know, let's begin with our very first review, and that's going to be Oz Academy. Okay, Oz Academy with All I Want. This one took place recently on the 11th of February back in Shinjuku Face. This one features about 5 matches and one number one contender match. So basically, there's going to be a whole lot. Now, our very first match is a three-way. We have Momoka Hanazono, who I like to call her the terror in the ring, versus Ram Kaicho versus you. Now, we're going to see very different dynamics of wrestlers in this one. You, we all know she's a big powerhouse girl. You know she can power slam you. That's pretty much what we do know because of her amazing strength. We have Momoka Hanazono, who is a terror in the ring. Not in a bad way, but more in a way where she likes to do unorthodox things in order to pick up a win. And then, of course, Ram Kaicho. I don't need no explanation from her, but you guys know what I'm talking about. But I have to say there was some great moments of this match that I think it was funny. But however, I think the ending is the most interesting one. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, let me explain. You kind of body slam a Momoka Hanazono into the mat, and then she did the same thing to Ram Kaicho. Not once, maybe twice, but however, that's where, of course, Ram Kaicho is a bit of a sneaky little devil. What you didn't realize, she put Ram Kaicho when she scoop slammed her and slammed her on top of Momoka. She actually maneuvered herself from the back to the on top for moving from the back to the to her stomach area on top of Momokana Zono. Now, however, unaware by you, you actually got on top of her, and of course, 1, 2, 3, unaware it was Ram Kaicho who picked up the win. So basically, the ref, from his point of view, it was Ram Kaicho who maneuvered herself to roll over and pin Momokana Zone to make it look like she did. You was like questioning how did that possible? But the ref had to tell her that she actually rolled over and pinned Momoka Anazono, taking the advantage while you wasn't paying attention what was going on. And of course, Ram Kaicho flipped her off, telling her, "Ha ha ha ha! I got you." So I mean, like I said, she's a little devil, but that's how Ram Kaicho is. So, so that's pretty funny. Now, our next match, we have tag team action. We have Izuki Aoki and Ryu Mizunami teaming up. They take on Zones and Hiroyo Matsumoto. Now, as you know, Zones and Matsumoto have been teaming up for a long time since they met in singles competition. Both ladies are powerhouses, and Zones have always been more on the under the wing of Matsumoto, and I think it's a pretty good one. But this one is all powerhouse in the entirety of the match. You probably would think in some capacity that someone has to pick up the win, but it did. Zones was the one who took the fall when, of course, Ryo Mizunami applied the guillotine leg drop, and it was over from there. I mean, there's no crime chains from Zone. She did a pretty good job, but it's not enough. As you know, she still has less of a year of experience, but she's getting there. Now, speaking of Zones, her teammate from Evolution, Chi Chi, also made her appearance. She takes on Subasa Kuragaki. So this was a very huge challenge for her. I mean, I know we have often spoken about Chi Chi, who is a prominent wrestler in Evolution. She has grown so much, and not to mention making appearances in various promotions like Sendai Girls, Marvelous. Uh, of course, she was invited to go to Surreism Chapter 2 by Surrey herself. But fortunately, that wasn't enough for her. I mean, even though we know she looks cute, but she is tough as hell. But unfortunately, because her experience doesn't give her absolute necessity that much, it was of Kuragaki who picked up the win with a somewhat of suplex slam. I'm not sure if that was it that allowed her to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have Ozaki Gun members featuring Kakeru, Sayuri Inouye, and Mayu Hiki. However, their personal referee was there too. Mio, or should I say Mio Shirai. Yes, folks, this is Mio Shirai, Io Sky's sister. She's the referee. She's part of Ozaki Gun. But their opponents, we have Kohaku from Pro Wrestling Wave, Coyote Yonoyama, and of course, Akino. So this is a very interesting battle. Now, don't forget, the only factor here is that Ozaki Gun has their own personal ref, Mio Shirai being their personal ref. That is always going to be a factor because, as you know, Ozaki Gun, since they run Oz Academy, they will stop at nothing to get what they want to win their matches. And that's exactly what happened. It was Sayori Inouye with the Tempen Tendrum that picked up the win when she pinned Kohaku. And of course, she put out a little promo, which I have no idea what was all that about. Now, our next match is the Oz Academy Openweight #1 contendership. We have Mayumi Ozaki, leader of Ozaki Gun, taking on Sonoko Kato. Now, we know that Sonoko Sato won this tournament to have an opportunity to challenge for the Openweight title. However, Mayumi will stop at nothing to get that title back. Reason is this: the title is currently in the hands of Miyu Momono from Marvelous. Now, you can say, as you know, if you guys been following, let me explain a little bit what's going on. Mayumi Ozaki last year invaded Marvelous, and this time she challenged. Then she challenged for the AAAW title that Miyu Momono had and took it, but this title was defended in their turf, and of course their tactics was the problem. But of course, Sonoka Kato, who was the previous champion, lost the belt to Miyu Momono. So of course Mayumi is going to be in disgust knowing that Sonoko lost the belt to an outsider. Now, if you guys ever follow Japanese wrestling, some promotions who are only from the inbreds of the promotion do not like outsiders from other promotions. This take away their belts. Well, it's more like this: you took our belt, I'll take yours. So, of course, in this moment, Ozaki has her own personal dude. This, I like to call him Dirty Cop, who gets involved. But good thing that Ryo Mizunami showed up to give him an ass whooping, not to get involved. But however, the X factor is of course Ozaki Gun was going to get involved. You probably say, who the hell is backing her Ryo Mizunami up? Well, it was just too much. But of course, Ozaki was going to use the mist uh, on Sonoko, then DDT her to pick up the win. But of course, she did make reference to Miyamoto in her, of course, in her promo, and she was stopping nothing to bring back the belt. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that Mayumi Ozaki will put the AAW title on the line, and of course, I would be surprised if it's a winner take all match. So, as you know, Ozaki will stop at nothing to prove once and for all why she's dominant. But if I was Miyamoto, if that's the case, that's going to happen, I would say get Takumi, get Magenta, get whoever is still in your promotion to back you up to deal with Ozaki-gun. And I'm sure Nagayo will send her troops to ensure that this is a fair fight. That is something we definitely could see. But we just wait until that day is official, and we'll get more details on that. So, let's move on with our next, of course, review, and that is from Pro Wrestling Noah. Okay, Pro Wrestling Noah with their brand new show, Limit Break 1, starting over. Now, this took recently on the 15th of February in Korakuen Hall. Now, Team Noah, consistent of Go Shiozaki, Mohamed Ayone, um, Aki Toshi Saito, and Kodoge, Sushi Kodoge, and of course Hiroki were there. Now, I don't know what the significance is of this show, but I'm sure they're trying to pump the entire Noah fan base to have a good show. So I think we're going to enjoy it. Now, our first match, we have a classic student versus master match. We have Hiroki from Team Noah taking on Taka Michinoku. Yes, folks, it was Taka Michinoku who trained Hiroki. So we know he had plenty of students in the past. I mean, if you guys know one of his, you know a few of his students. You know Maika, Mirai, and of course are his students were his students during their Kantai GTO days, and that kind of sets it up for all of you. But nonetheless, you would have think that somehow the student would somehow overcome the master, but no, not in this case, because you cannot deny the experience of Taka Michinoku, but he did apply the Michinoku driver onto Hiroki to pick up the win. Now, our next match, we have Yu Owada taking on Shuji Ichikawa, making his Pro Wrestling Noah debut. Now, there is no indication of Ishikawa since he left All Japan Pro Wrestling if he's going to be going full time with Noah. No, I would say he probably would remain as a freelancer, not to mention to balance out his wrestling career while he's the GM of Evolution Girls. So that would would make sense for me. But I have to say this match was pretty interesting. Yu Iwata, who is a young boy who is learning the ropes, trying to, of course, get some reps and also improve on his wrestling craft. But he did pretty good, try to take out Ishikawa, but unfortunately Ishikawa applied two drivers that would put him away, and fantastic. I have to say Owada, pretty amazing match. Now our next match we have Daisuke Sekimoto making his appearance, and so is um, Kazuki Sakunaba. I haven't seen that guy in a long time, Sakunaba. I mean, since I haven't seen him since he and Sugiura dissolved Sugiura Gun, and I thought it was interesting. But nonetheless, these guys do have a bit of a submission background. I mean, Sakunaba has a bit of the MMA background and all that. I thought that was going to play it out pretty well. That they were going to use pure submission styles. That's always been what something that I've always looked for, because I like certain wrestlers that could try to put on good matches on different styles. But unfortunately, this match didn't do so well for both of them because it ended in a time limit draw after 15 minutes. So just like that, it was over. Now, out of nowhere, we saw the surprise appearance of members of the DDT roster. That's right, DDT Pro Wrestling wrestlers appeared. We had Tetsuya Endo, um, Kazusada Iguchi. Who else did I saw? Oh yeah, Yuki Ino also showed up, and this other guy, I don't know who it was. Now, I don't know exactly what was their purpose, but as you know, both DDT and Pro Wrestling Noah are owned by Cyberfight. But I'm sure that Endo would love to come back down and appear in these shows. And I think that's something good that we definitely could see down in the future, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, our next match, we have Masato Tanaka making his appearance, being accompanied by members of the Zero One roster to take on Mohamed Yone. I have to say, this was a hard hitting match. Now, both wrestlers veterans in their own times. You would think that this is going to be a hard hitting match. Well, it kind of did. But unfortunately, it was the sliding D by Tanaka who picked up the win, and it was over right from there. Now, I don't know what Tanaka said, of course, during the post-match promo, but of course, members of the Zero One roster actually were in the ring with him. I have no idea what it is. I wouldn't be sure if this is an invasion or something, but hopefully there'll be something we could hear from them. Now, our next match, we have GBH from New Japan, consisting of Tomoka Hamna and Togi Makabe, and they take on Akitoshi Sato and Kazuyuki Fujita. Now, Fujita offered GBH his infamous drink that would give him strength or whatever, but Togi Makabe was like, has that look like, for real? He's like not feeling the love of that. But there's no doubt that there's going to be a lot of powerhouse matches on this one, because not to mention Saito does have a background in martial arts and all that, but it did play out pretty well. But unfortunately, it was, of course, the King Kong knee drop by Togi Makabe to, what's his name? To Saito that picked up the win. So, yeah. Now, our next match. This was the main event. I have to say, one of my favorite matches for this particular show. We have Yuji Nagata teaming up with Jun Akiyama to take on Team Noah's Asushi Kotoge and Go Shiozaki. Now, those who don't know, Kotoge made it clear that he now, since he's accomplished a lot as a junior heavyweight champion, he wants to make the jump now to heavyweight, and he believes that this will be a perfect opportunity because you got, of course, Go Shiozaki. He is a heavyweight competitor, and also Nagata and Akiyama. But oh my God, this guy took a beating from two of the most amazing vets. You would think Kotoge, who is the weakest link of the group. I mean, the guy's a junior heavyweight, not gonna lie that, but making the transition, I say he's finally evolving. No, and I have to say he took a hell of a beating Go Shiozaki tried to intervene, and of course, Kotoge did his job great. I mean, he picked up great moments, and the kid refuses to give up. I have to say, wow. But unfortunately, nobody won because this match ended in a time limit draw. And I think fans were impressed with Kotoge, knowing the dude is a junior heavyweight competitor who is now transitioning to heavyweight. I think he's going to transition just fine. So I can't wait to see what else he's going to do. He did say he would like to participate in the Victory Challenge Tag League. So hopefully he does. I would love to see that. And Team Noah needs to get more wrestlers in the junior heavyweight division. Just get more juniors. That's what I think they should do. So I think that's pretty much it for now. Let's move on with our last and final review, NXT. All right, NXT. It opened up with the North American title on the line. Obafemi defends his title against Lexus King. Now, Lexus King, as you know, last week he put out this thing where he says, "I'm the one who made sure you get the NXT, the North American title." So it's more like you owe me. And of course, Lexus King will stop at nothing to get the attention and try to reach for the top. But the real question does he have what it takes to pull off a guy who is so big and is strong? Now, I'm sure Lexus King will heavily have dirty tricks, but unfortunately, it did not do any good for him because he ended up in a pop-up power bomb, allowing him to pick up, of course, for Obafemi, his first title defense, second title defense, and this time it was a good one. Now, things are not looking well for Tehel. It seems that her Valentine's date with Riley Osborne kind of got a little awkward. Of course, Jay-Z Jane and Jasmine Nix were there tried to comfort her, but all of a sudden Ariana Grace decided to stick her nose where it doesn't belong. Thinks that that her grace and mighty is gonna change all of that, but Jay-Z and Jane did not like that. But apparently they decided to set up a ring, set this whole thing in the ring. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we have brand new tag team champions. Braun Breaker and Baron Corbin come out to do their promo. However, the obvious issue does tell who is going to be the next challengers. Now, the first ones to step up is none other than Chase Hughes, Duke Hudson, and Andre Chase. So they kind of pleaded their way over this. However, there's another tag team that also pleaded their case, and that is Nathan Frazier and Axiom. So they actually made their case well known. But to settle this, our general manager, Ava Reigns, decided, let's set up a number one contendership. Whoever wins will be the first ones to challenge for the NXT tag team title. So that is something we could definitely see, and it's going to happen. Now, last week, last week we saw Roxanne Perez sucker punched Ren Sinclair after Roxanne Perez, who's been throwing a fit over the fact that Shotzi jumped the front of the line to get a title shot against Lyra Valkyria. Ren Sinclair tried to comfort her, but apparently Roxanne was not having it. So they set up a match. So basically, Roxanne told, of course, during her interview that she needs to know her place. Well, that kind of set it up for the match. Now, you could say that Roxanne Perez did put a hurt on her, and then she put of course, the crossface to end the match. Now, Metaphor, as you know, they're doing their little cocky things always. We know that Jakara, a Lash Legend, does have a match later on. But however, no quarter catch crew are determined to obtain the one thing. They believe that Noam Dar is a disgrace in the name of technical wrestling. But of course, Noam Dar doesn't need to hear that. But there's only one thing. They don't, apparently, they told him there's going to be the no quarter clause. Now, he doesn't understand what that means. He doesn't understand that all four men will be in the ring, but you won't know who will be the one to challenge him. That has always been no quarter catch crew's way. You're gonna be so unprepared because you don't know who you'll be facing with. And I think if I was Noam Dar, I would definitely be worried because you don't know who you're going to be facing. Now, the real question is, when will that happen? Well, we'll see. And they say they want this to happen next week. So we're going to be witnessing that. Now, last week for the last 2 weeks ago, we did see Josh Briggs gave a little tough love attitude towards his former brethren, Brooks Jensen. And then last week, they got into a brawl and this set up to the match. I have to say, they really, really, really beat the crap out of each other. This was a host fight if you don't actually see one. And they really did not hold any punches exactly. But I think this is a match like who will step up more to move forward in their careers. And I think that kind of sets it up. But unfortunately, it was in fact Josh Briggs with a close line that put away Brooks Jensen to pick up the win. So the real question goes now, where does Josh Briggs go from here? What will this do for Brooks Jensen setback knowing that he lost to his former tag partner? Well, we'll find out in the future for that as well. Now, as you know, Joe Gacy is a real nut job. Now, of course, Dijak is trying to prove that he can break him, but Luca Crucifino, who is the man of the law of the justice system, was in pleading with Dijak that he needs to let him go. But however, their paths will cross. But the real question does tell: will Dijak find a way to break a man? I mean, that's what he's been known for. He thinks that people like Joe Gacy, they need to break so they can be taught a lesson of what true justice is. But the real question is, does he have that the mentality to pull it off? I don't know, but we'll see. Now, our next match, we have Ariana Grace versus Jay-Z Jane. Of course, as you know, Ariana Grace is always trying to prove her graciousness, but this is what happened. Apparently, things got a little interesting. Jasmine Nix actually attacked Ariana, and of course, giving Jay-Z Jane the opportunity to put her away with the forearm, and that kind of ended in that fashion in order to pick up the win. So I don't know what's going on there, but we do know in the next match it will explain it. However, we did see the D'Angelo family meeting. Of course, the Don of NXT, Tony D'Angelo, spoke with Rizzo and, of course, Stacks to explain the actions of what happened. Now, Rizzo felt bad for losing, but of course, Tony D'Angelo told him that it's only her first match, but she'll get better at it. And of course, she will. Of course, but apparently, Stacks was determined to win back to NXT Tag Team titles, but of course, Tony D said that they're not going to go for it this time. He felt like it's time to step up the game now for the family. So of course Rizzo and Stacks are both in agreement with D'Angelo. So it's time for now the D'Angelo family to step up its game. So we'll see where that leads us from there. Now our next match we have the NXT Tag Team titles #1 contendership. We do see Chase U taking on Frazier and Axiom. Now, you would think that this is going to be a very interesting match. Now, both teams did made a compelling argument about who should be the next ones to challenge the current tag champions. But I have to say it was a pretty good one. But out of nowhere, it was Andre Chase who pinned Frazier and becoming the brand new, the #1 contenders. But unfortunately, all four men got their asses handed to them by the return of the OCs. That's right, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. I don't know what was going on, but it appears now that the reason they came back was for two things: one, the tag titles, and two, to separate the men from the boys. So we'll see where that leads us because it's gonna be too sweet. Now, as you know, after what happened to Vengeance Day, it seems that Ilya Dragunov was kind of suspicious about Carmelo Hayes, about his behavior, the way that, of course, Trick Williams, who was given the opportunity for the NXT title. So he sent a message loud and clear to him, telling him, you decided to betray your best friend for this. So it's more like, I know what you want, so meet me in the ring and confront me face to face. But however, we saw the return of the Red Eyes. I'm looking forward to that. Now, our next match. No, hold on. We do see a new BFF forming between Fallon Henley and Thea Hale. So basically, they've been having some bad days in their lives. I mean, Henley had to watch her two former friends, of course, Briggs and Jensen beat the crap out of each other. They held having a lousy Valentine's thing. We could see a new a friendship forming between them, so we'll see what happens until then. Now, our next match, we have Lash Legend versus Kelani Jordan. I have to say, this was a pretty interesting matchup. I know Kelani Jordan is one of those new up and comers that are making a name for themselves. So many people say that Kelani is the future of NXT, but unfortunately, that didn't do so well because, of course, Jakara Jackson gets involved, distract the referee, and then, of course, there was a choke slam by Lash Legend to pick up the win. But unfortunately, during the post match, Kiana James and Izzy Dame, who are trying to stop wrestlers like Kelani Jordan to make a name for themselves, well, Kelani Jordan actually outsmarted her. But if I'm Kelani Jordan, I would definitely try to have backup just in case if you have to deal with them. So that's one of the most reasons that's what should take place. Now, our main event is the NXT Women's title, Shotzi versus Lyra Valkyria. Now, everything went out very smoothly and very calm, but unfortunately, there was a move where, of course, Shotzi, in the other hand, kind of got out of the ring, but must have landed in a bad way because her knee was down. So apparently, Ava Raine showed up, and I believe this match must have ended in a no contest. So, so apparently, Lyra Valkyria decided to continue on. Ava Raine issued an open challenge, and the person to step up was Lash Legend. Now, that you would think this match was going to be interesting for her to step up. We know Lash Legend is always wanting to win the NXT Women's title. However, during the backstage, we did see the women's locker room watching this match, but Roxanne Perez, who just got out of the shower, saw what was happening. They informed her that, of course, Shotzi got hurt, but there was an open challenge issued, and Roxanne Perez went livid. Basically, she was upset that she missed it. I mean, she could have been the one to issue it, but that's what happened. But unfortunately, Lash Legend did not win the match. It was Lyra Valkyria when she applied a big splash. I thought this ending was really messed up, but however, due to the circumstances of Shotzi, something had to be give. But we'll see what happens next week. I have to say the ending was the worst way, but yeah. So I think that's pretty much it with NXT. So let's move on with our last thing we're gonna do on this episode, and that's gonna be news updates. Alrighty then, so welcome to our news updates. So let's begin with the promotions on their updates on their upcoming events. Let's begin with GCW since there's a whole lot of them taking place. Now for Project GCW that takes place in St. Louis on the 1st of March, they announced that Myron Reed will be in action to take on Oni El Bendito. So that's going to be a very good cruiserweight, junior heavyweight, however you want to call it in that particular category of a match. Then, of course, the following day for Keep in Touch in Indianapolis, we have Calvin Tankman taking on the Sauce, Alex Zane. That's going to be one heck of a match. I definitely will love to see. And then there's the So Much event that takes place on the 10th of March. It was announced that Missy Hyatt will make her return to GCW. I haven't seen her for quite some time, but it's kind of interesting. Then, of course, on the 23rd of March, for Role Model in Detroit, Michigan, it was announced that Zilla and Jacob Fatu will team up once again to take on Davey Bang and August Matthews. And then, of course, for their LA show that takes place in April, for How High, they announced for Ruckus and Too Cold Scorpio that will be appearing in that particular show. And then, of course, they announced once again, this was mentioned before during Effie's Big Gay Brunch recently in Tampa, they will make their return to Tampa on May 3rd. So that's going to be exciting news. They haven't announced who will participate, the name of the show just yet. So as soon as we get closer and closer to May, we'll find out. Now, JCW, as you know, on March 10th, they have March Madness. It was later announced that the JCW World title will be defended. Masha Slime makes her first title defense since winning the Jersey J Cup. She defends the belt against Marcus Mathers. Now, as you know, Kitsune Women's Wrestling has been dealing with a lot of setbacks due to certain Yoshi wrestlers. They've been unable to participate due to some visa issues. Well, they managed to add in some other names to this. We have Lady Apache. If you guys aren't familiar, she's a well-known luchador down in Mexico. I have seen her work before. Been with AAA, CML. I haven't heard what else she's been doing since then, but yes. They even announced someone named the Baroness. I don't even know who she is, but that sounds like something you see from G.I. Joe, to be honest with you. But they also announced for the commentary team, of course, they have Veda Scott, which I'm really happy to hear that she's in it. They even Aria Perkins. Now, if you guys don't know who's Aria Perkins, she is the wife of TJP. So basically, yes, she will be participating as the commentary team. However, another match has been announced for Kitsune Women's Wrestling. MK Ultra, Killer Kelly, and Masha Slamovich will be in action to take on Takumi Iroha and Miyu Momono. So that's pretty much for that one. Let's keep moving on. Oh yes, now this is a very interesting one for an update. As you know, girls have been operating for almost a year. So March will be marked as their first year anniversary. But this is the very interesting part. It was announced that for the main event for that particular, it's going to be a very interesting match. Now, if you guys remember, it started out with three girls. However, one of them, Sunny, on the other hand, had no other choice but to retire due to health conditions. But now she's back as a referee. And she's going to be refereeing the main event because the main event is none other than Chi Chi and Zones, which is, I think, is a very appropriate one-year anniversary due to the fact that these girls started together, and we'll see who has advanced even further. I don't know if they have faced off each other before, but this is one match I'm definitely looking forward to hearing it. Now, I probably won't be able to see it, but we'll see. And then finally, this is a match I know some of you are probably going to be invested in. Tokyo Pro Wrestling announced for their Grand Princess event takes place in March 31st. They announced the cutest in the world, Maki Ito. She'll be in action against the King, Minoru Suzuki. Now, it's not the first time these two have crossed paths before. A few years ago, Maki Ito tried to put him into Ito Respect Army, even though Suzuki at the time was a member of Suzuki-gun. So I think he finds Maki Ito annoying, but that's what I think. So yeah, that's pretty much it for our promotions or from updates on our promotions. Now an update with WrestleCon in Philly. So if anybody's going to Philadelphia for the WrestleMania week, they announced that Ric Flair will be making an appearance there. Not sure exactly if it's for autographs. Normally they will probably announce how much would it cost for an autograph, photograph, or probably both. But I'm sure it's pretty much expensive, but that's how it is. Now, for developments. Now, recently, as you know, I talked about Josh Alexander. There was a very confusing thing that happened. Josh Alexander's put on his tweet an hourglass. Now, indication they said that his contract was extended, and later now they're saying that he's re-signed with the company. So I'm like, okay, make up your damn minds here, whatever it is. I'm not sure if there was confusion due to the fact that Josh Alexander did not like the idea of what's his name, Scott D'Amore being fired, because I know that many of the wrestlers in TNA have been upset by the decision by Anthem. So we'll see what happens. Now, as you all know, Sting has announced for his final match with AEW and his final match as a pro wrestler. He invited Kevin Nash to attend this last match, but unfortunately, WWE are forbidding him to go. I mean, it's a real bummer. I mean, I feel WWE should just understand this is Sting's last match. I mean, I think it was Kevin Nash who gave Sting the idea of the Crow image. And I think it's unfair to WWE being unreasonable. This is not about him signing with AEW. This is about having his friend being there. And I think that's the problem with WWE. So that's their fault. Now, a very interesting news has come up from DDT Pro Wrestling. They announced they fired their ring announcer. Apparently, from what I'm understanding, he said some inappropriate words. I cannot make out, was it about during the ring or in the social media. That's the thing that kind of throws me off, but I don't know exactly what's the big deal on it. But if he did say something inappropriate, then DDT had no other choice but to do the right thing and to fire him. Not much details have been announced for that, but we'll see what happens until then. Now, Viva Van, as you know, if you guys don't know who she is a Vietnamese wrestler who has made her way throughout wrestling all over. She, not to mention, recently graduated with the New Japan Academy. She said something that, of course, many people saying, "Oh, she is a well-respected Vietnamese wrestler." This is what she said: that wrestling has only been around for 8 years in Vietnam. I feel like this was what I'm made to do. I was made to be the first Vietnamese woman wrestler to help other Vietnamese wrestlers get started into the business or just help them out. Now, this is why I created this channel, folks, because you may or may not have heard. I say this all the time and during the intro of the whole thing, where I said where wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. And it's true. You probably wouldn't expect Vietnam to have wrestling down there, and it's interesting. We've seen that with the Philippines. I've seen that in South Korea. I've seen that in my dad's home country of Costa Rica. Certain areas you probably will be surprised, and I think it's very interesting. Now, finally, this one is a very one that really touched my heart a lot. Now, as you know, recently the wrestling, well, most specifically the Yoshi world, were hit hard with the passing of Asai after during an accident. The president of At-Risk Girls made this statement. Sports Hoshi. Asai's parents hopes that at-risk girls will resume normal activities. If we stop moving forward, we will be doing against their wishes. We will be observing moments of silence for Asai on at February 21st and 21st show. I have to say that's very kind of them. I mean, I think they were thinking, what would their daughter want them to do, and I think it's true. I mean, you can't just hold operations just because you're hurt. I mean, ask yourself this question: what would Asai want? I mean, she would want you guys to keep on moving forward and making wrestling fun and interesting for the next generation. And I think that's a good thing. And I think maybe the parents understand. And I'm really glad that they say they want to do a moment of silence during the 21st show on February 21st. And I think that's a great moment thing to hear. So we'll see what happens until then. And I think that's pretty much it with everything. So let's call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Coming up, I will be reviewing, of course, not only AEW Dynamite, but the much recent show from RevPro. This one features, of course, Will Ospreay's last independent wrestling match before he makes his way to AEW. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I did hear a new All Japan Pro Wrestling show has come out. I'm not sure if I'll be able to watch it, but we'll see what happens. So at the moment, anything could happen from here on out. So we'll just see what happens. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.